Survival. What do you do when the stakes are your own survival? As Cora and Caesar and Lovey are escaping from Georgia, Lovey gets caught. On page 60, the narrator tells us they had lost Lovey. He oriented himself with the constellations, and the runaways stumbled on, impelled into the night. They didn't speak for hours. From the trunk of their scheme, choices and decisions sprouted like branches and shoots. If they had turned the girl back at the swamp, if they had taken a deeper route around the farms, if Cora had taken the rear and been the one grabbed by the two men, if they had never left at all. In escaping the Randall plantation, Lovey figures out something is going on, and she tags along with Cora and Caesar. Well, tags along isn't exactly the right way to say it. She surprises them a little ways into their journey because she's been following them. And they let her come, even though Cora is not too thrilled with it. In fact, if you're tracking the story from about page 56 or so, 55, 56, you'll start to see a bit of Cora's disapproval, maybe. She refers to the squeamish quality of Lovey on page 56 and talks about how she brought nothing practical with her for the journey on page 57. And then when they end up on a hog track and the hog hunters see the escaped slaves and they attempt to capture them, two of the hunters grab Lovey and carry her off into the darkness. And we don't know until later what's happened to her, but we assume she gets taken back to the Randall plantation at this stage. Cora is nearly captured herself. Remembering the time that she had been raped on the Randall plantation, she grabs a stone and bashes in her attacker's head, leaving him dead. Caesar also manages to throw off his attacker, and Cora and Caesar continue their escape. But even then, they're plagued by this question of what if. As Lovey is carried off, Cora cries after her friend on page 60. There was no sign, nowhere to tell where they had gone. Cora hesitates, and Caesar tugs at her. And then the choices. Did we do the right thing? What if we turned Lovey back? What if Cora had been at the back of the pack? What if they hadn't left at all? Could they have saved Lovey? And this raises a question, like, when survival is the issue, what's the right choice? Should Caesar and Cora have tried to chase after Lovey after they've thrown off their attackers? I mean, in some ways, if you're writing the action superhero movie of it, well, yeah, of course, that's what you do, right? You heroically go and you don't leave a single person behind, and you track down the attackers and you'd sneak up on them in the dead of night and you'd rescue Lovey from their clutches and you'd head off north together again as a trio. Except that's not really an option here. And so it raises questions about the ethics of their choices leading up to it. Did they do the right thing? What is the Aristotelian mean in this case? Rashness to head off after the attackers, or would it be bravery to head off after the attackers? Or is it cowardice to not rush after the attackers? Should you always try to save another life, even if it imperils your own? But at what point does that just become foolishness? And if we think about the greatest good for the greatest number, well, I guess 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But even that seems really problematic, doesn't it? When survival is the question, what do you do and how do you make that choice? In the end, Caesar and Cora have to live with the fact that they could do nothing. And so what are the ethics of powerlessness then? I think it's really easy to say, I would have done this or that in this situation. But when it comes right down to it, in this scene, we're faced with the brutal reality that sometimes the right choice is just whichever one you made. Because if they'd made another choice, they would be dead. And in some ways, that can't be the right choice for them. Not at this stage. Not when it's all evil all around and it's all bad choices all around. So this starts to raise questions then about how do we even engage the sorts of moral dilemmas that a book like this presents. Maybe the real ethical dilemma isn't whether you'd apply utilitarian ethics or virtue ethics or try to come up with a categorical imperative that works in this scenario. Maybe the real ethical question is, why do we think it's even right to ask a question about the ethics of survival? Are there situations in which what matters most is that you just make it through to the other end? And the right choice then is whatever one you made to get you from this step to the next step, because all the other options seemed like certain death?